Hello and welcome back to Rei-Jin-G-Lu-P. So last time we discovered what is apparently Kinzo's body. It seems like the wolves decided to kill based on the role in the village, as opposed to what they suspected the secret roles were. The only thing that's kind of surprising about this to me, well, I mean, I don't know if it's only, but he didn't really speak much during the meeting, so it's a little like he was not like they're trying to kill the person that unites the village, but he wasn't really doing that in the meeting at all. But I mean, I guess just goes into their backstory. So he's the leader. This will make everybody more unsettled. So I guess it makes sense in that way. There's one problem though. The part of the body that used to be the head was completely destroyed. Oh, so are we sure it's Kinzo? It should be. There's no part of the head left untouched. It was that thorough. If we don't hear a clear proof, or at least really, really good evidence as this guy, this is making me very suspicious. Especially because he's hit a small roll so far. So could he somehow be faking his death here? Although I guess that goes against the spirit of the game, right? If he doesn't show up in the meeting, he'd probably be breaking the rules to fake his death, so maybe not. It was obviously the result of relentless, heavy, blunt attacks. Everything above the neck was just a strange flat mass of shattered skull fragments and white and red organic matter. Compared to it, everything else was largely unharmed. The old-looking clothing and the unexpectedly robust chest for someone his age were all the proof needed to know that this was the body of Kanzo Makashimi. Okay, so I guess I'll take it as being this guy. But there's just a little bit of doubt, like could he have used a body double somehow?
片付けるんですか？当たり前だろ。少しだけ時間をください。どうする気だ？できる限りのことを調べます。
Since we had no idea when we could get out of here, protecting the scene of the crime for an official investigation meant we had to leave this body to rot here, and we just couldn't do that. And considering the horrible state it was in, the villagers probably want to take care of it their own way as soon as possible. Not much I could do to stop that. Thus, I did my duty as someone without such obligations. This corpse was completely unlike the ones from yesterday. While those two were destroyed completely, the damage on this one was focused on the head. This weapon clearly wasn't sharp, they used something blunt. The skin on his face was torn but not sliced apart, and the skull was shattered. This was caused by repeated blunt attacks on the head. This sounds personal. I mean, unless they're trying to hide the body again, it just sounds personal that they're going right for his head and hitting him over and over and over. It wasn't my job to picture whether there was some profound grudge in this. It does seem like it, though. The only clear thing here was that the wolves killed him using something blunt, not claws or fangs. Like you'd think if it was someone that respected him, but he's just like, we have to do this because this is the most important person in the village, then they would just like stab him in the chest, make sure he's dead, leave him be, you know? I mean, this seems a lot worse than that. It was obviously done with dedicated intent, not accidentally, yeah. At the very least, the entity that made this corpse wasn't the same one that made the ones from yesterday. I don't know if I go that far. It's not the same motive. That doesn't mean it's not the same person. It's not the same, like, modus operandi, but it made sense if you separated them and assumed that yesterday's was the corruption and today's was the wolves. Yeah. Actually, you're probably right. Because it's not really fair that the wolves got to kill someone before anyone even spoke, right? That makes sense. Like in a normal werewolf game, that doesn't happen. You have the first day of discussion, and then the wolves kill. That does make sense. Wait, but why did we see the wolves in the previous night? That part doesn't make sense. So maybe they do get a kill. Yeah, no, I think it still makes sense to assume that they killed... Unless the wolves also carry out the corruption. Maybe that's how it works. It could be that. I guess maybe the wolves carry out the corruption. Or, if not, I would assume they decided to kill the reporter. And the other one died from the corruption. But that's possible. I mean, I'm actually thinking they're right, but... Yeah, thank you. Lots of times games like don't bring up this stuff, so I have to bring it up, you know? But they are bringing it up, so that's good. But the thing I'd seen when I was walking around at night that time had the appearance of a wolf. Or rather, a werewolf. A werewolf. If the werewolves were the ones bringing the corruption, the tale all this was based on would make even less sense. If the corruption was the great lord Shanai's punishment, it would be weird for it to be delivered by the wolves. Yeah. Holding back my nausea, I looked back at the corpse. Then I rolled back my sleeves and reached for the destroyed head. What?
Oi, nani o? ないと思いますが、一応調べます。
Thank you. Decapitation means body doubles. Mystery Writing 101. If someone brought in and killed a person with a similar build to Kanzo's and left him here, his death could easily be fake.
Kanzo-san, 下顎に銀歯ありました。いや、ねえよ。
What? First I was just thinking this is really disgusting. He really... Oh, yeah. So there was the hint before, when he was examining the bodies last time, he seemed to have like a medical background. Which made me think he was like a med student, maybe in studying being like a coroner. But... I mean, because that's really ballsy just to reach into the guy's head and like look at his... like be examining his teeth. It's like gross. But this is surprising. Like this early, if that's wrong. His voice was strangely forced. I looked at him and realized he was kind of pale. I might have overdone it. Still, I couldn't be soft in this situation.
おやっさんは60過ぎて差し歯も何にも入れてねえの自慢してたから。いえ、誘導を避けるための質問です。健康な歯がびっしりですよ。
Damn! Alright, our guy is smart. Whoa! But that was the wrong guy to test. Because he's our seer, or our snake, and there's just no reason for a wolf to come forward and pretend to be the snake on day one when they're not being pressured. That's not believable. So he's like the one guy we can trust. He's not going to misdirect us. That would have been a better test on anybody else, because then maybe they'd say, yes, he did, when it wasn't true. But then again, that would only be if they're hiding the fact that it was a fake body. So, yeah, that wasn't really likely to work. But it's interesting they tried that. I think he's going to be a fun character. The lower jaw was mostly intact while the upper one was destroyed along with the rest of the head. Because really, for that to work, there would have to be a fake body, and this guy would have to be in on it. You know, that's pretty unlikely that both of those things are happening. And he would have to not know about the guy's teeth, let's say. And then he has to lie, and yeah. Despite that, I saw a hint of the old man in the eyebrows and the dark hair with streaks of gray in them. Yeah, I'm believing it's him. It's pretty clear it was the one and only Kanzo, so it was probably pointless to keep thinking about the way he was injured. Also, if it wasn't him, they'd probably be less likely to bring up the idea of a fake body double. Because that would be the surprise they reveal later. My hands were all messy. I'd have to wash them later. The corpse aside. Kanzo was lying on some thin bedding and there was no sign of a struggle. He knew the killer. He was either instantly killed by the first attack or knocked out, laid here, and then killed. Still, it wasn't a corpse that was easy to make. The situation here was peculiar. Peculiar. That's not a word I say very often. One point I found curious was the fact that Kanzo surely obeyed the shelter law and locked himself in. However, the lock on the door was still perfectly intact. So logically speaking, he knew the killer. Kanzo had opened the door and let the culprit in. There was no sign of resistance, so it was probably done by someone he felt safe with. It's like most of the town, though. Maybe the entire town. I mean, maybe not the glasses guy, and not us. I mean, honestly, maybe he would even let us in. However, if this was a normal killing by the standards of the feast and the yummy purge, then this was definitely made possible by something unnatural. Back to the situation at hand. The futon and everything around it were bloody, obviously, but there was another strange thing about the crime scene. The dampness. Some spots were really wet, and clearly not because of the mist. It was like the murderer purposely spread some water here. Were they trying to wash away the blood spatter on him? But there was no point in doing it in front of the body. Alright, here, let me... Yeah, I can't think of why they would do this. The footprints were faded. Were they trying to cover their tracks? They were still pretty visible, though. That makes sense. Did they talk about the footprint size? I don't think they did. It's more like they put bloody footprints on a futon and tatami that was already wet. Was it faking it? The shape of the prints told me they weren't made by Western shoes, Japanese clogs, or wild beasts. They were just long ovals reminiscent of those made by Zori sandals. There weren't many of them, though. The blood was absorbed by the futon. But from what I had, I could tell there was only one type of footprint. I'm not sure about that. Well, yeah, he's not a detective, but... all I knew was that the culprit was a very dangerous human. So you don't think they were in wolf form when they did it? As I washed my hands, Takumi-san removed the sliding door and put Kanzo-san's remains in it. On it. Huh. So, okay, maybe the corruption's carried out by the wolves, like in wolf form, but maybe the killing's actually done by them? Like they're forced to be on that side, but they kind of have to do it like in human form and stuff? He covered his destroyed face with a nearby hand towel and prepared to carry it. We lifted up, and yeah, this was definitely a job for two people. We went out into the mist. Voice devoid of life. I couldn't call out to him. Pushing him any further was dangerous. I could tell by the air about him. I was gonna say, why? You did, but why? That has nothing to do with Kinzo. Or Kanzo. That was entirely possible. Well, he did, but it has nothing to do with Kanzo's death. They proved he was aware of it himself. I would have said that, but it felt wrong. Was he thinking maybe if he... No, nothing would have changed. Because that wouldn't have made them vote off a wolf. Because there was a separate decision to not vote, so... Yeah, it's actually not this death that's going to be your fault, but it probably will be the deaths that happen like 3 nights from now and 4 nights from now. You still haven't caught the wolves. Doing this may have been the reason. So, but yeah. But you're dead tomorrow night. He's like the guaranteed kill tomorrow night. Unless the bodyguard pulled some shenanigans. Well, I couldn't either. I was just an outsider, so I had no idea how to counsel him. Feeling powerless, we approached the dining hall. We'd pass by here and go straight for the graveyard. Tay had come out too. She was in the midst of a prayer. Kaori was standing next to her. She looked completely out of it. Damn. Riku was covering Maiko's eyes and looking straight at me. Haru, Kanzo's actual granddaughter, was watching her grandfather's corpse with an intense expression. Probably wasn't good to make any assumptions here, but I couldn't help it. It felt like her expression was full, not of unbearable sorrow, but of anger, hatred, and disgust. I'd never seen them have a nice chat, so I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't see eye to eye. But still, I'd have liked it if she made a different expression, if only for this moment. I can only think that because I was an outsider who didn't know shit. Yeah, I agree here. I think you're being a little weirdly judgmental because you don't know anything about these characters or what's happened or anything, so it wasn't good to make assumptions. And also, you're assuming all this based on her expression. I mean, it's like, okay. People grieve in different ways. Why was I in this position? Just how could I even learn in my position? But as it turned out, I was still underestimating the situation.
Yoshi-kun ga doko ni mo inai.
Yoshi-kun is... I just want to make sure I know who this is. I think it's the guy with the black hair, my main suspect guy. Let's see... No, it's the punk kid. Okay. We met Chami on the way to the graveyard. She and the two high school guys were still searching, but the mist made it extremely difficult. We told her we'd join in once we buried Kanzo-san and picked up our pace. The graveyard wasn't that far. Yasumizu wasn't very big. It only felt like it because of the mist or the load. Okay, it's the creepy old man. I completely forgot about him. I had two. He was alright too, huh? I had no idea why, but he was looking at us clapping and laughing. Oh my god, dude. That meant that Yoshitsugu was the only one we hadn't seen yet. I was told there'd be only one. Why, though? Well, okay, I guess we did hear the rules. But two people died the first night, so I don't think it's that surprising. The wolves are supposed to kill only one person per night. Is it per wolf? Not saying a word, I hurried to finish the job. That led to us finding him early. Whoa, I didn't expect this. Yoshitsugu was on the shortest path to the cliff in the grass of the graveyard. Now this looks more like the first kills. Wow. Damn. A lot of body parts. Though Takumi had only noticed him by chance. That was how deep in the grass he was, and how many pieces of them there were. It reeked of death too, but it was mixed with the smell of trampled grass and a strange beastly odor. Yes, this is the wolves. So is that how it works? Like... Alright, there's a couple ideas I have. One, is murdering allowed outside of the game? Maybe it is? And there's like other reasons besides the wolves for killing people? That'd be crazy. Or maybe one of the wolves kills in like wolf form and the other one kills in human form? And that would mean, so the first night the reporter died from a wolf, and was there any proof that the big guy died from a wolf? I don't remember. Maybe not all the blood around here was his. Unlike Kanzo, he left clear proof of a tough battle and intense pain. Did he?
Yoshi.
It's not the word I'd use right now. Takumi's voice was shaking. He picked up a soccer ball sized object. His skull? Half-eaten and basically a shadow of what it used to be, it clenched its teeth even in death.
いいですか
We like examining dead people's heads. Takumi gave it, Yoshitsugu's head, to me, and I put my finger in its mouth. Jesus Christ. You like examining their teeth in particular. I was curious about what was stuck in there. What I found was a clump of beastly fur in his mouth. He literally fought tooth and nail, resisting until the very end. That was like when we were planning to defend ourselves against the wolf. We're thinking about biting it. Apparently he was too. Weird. Resisting what? Obviously the being that brought the corruption. I thought that was the god. It didn't take long for the news of his death to spread across the village. I'd heard that the pain of losing one's child was beyond any description. Even so, Kaori broke down so badly it felt abnormal. The mild-mannered woman had become a mad beast. We had to band up to keep her from running to where the corpse was. We'd already gathered it up and thrown it into Saranaga, after all. Takumi kept a tuft of the boy's bleached hair? What? That is weird. Here's some of your dead son's hair to remember him by? That's so creepy to me. What? What? No! What is going on? What the fuck? She instantly put it in her mouth. Through her wailing and choking, she did her best to chew it and swallow it? It was wretched, gloomy, and miserable. What the fuck? Though it might have been an act born out of ultimate motherly love. Whatever the case, no matter the shape, it was too late to try and bring her child back into herself. Oh, God. Not to mention absurd and pointless. What the fuck is this? Is this some kind of Japanese thing? I don't think so, but what the hell? That was how it looked in my eyes. God. I mean, at least it's not like his finger or something. That would be even worse, but what the hell? Ew! Alright, now this even makes this sound worse. Why do you call it the feast? Are you just cannibals? What the hell's going on? I would agree it's not the same person this time. This is not the same two people. But I think they're still the same people they killed on the first night. Probably. His words got the attention of basically everyone present. But they didn't reach the sobbing mother and her older son, who was gently consoling her. Yoshitsugu. Why did he have to go against the laws? What, was he trying to run? His efforts in death had only worked to corner not just his mother, but everyone else here. So maybe he died from the corruption again? They're assuming that again? I'm not sure about that, but maybe. It was useless. He got some weird fur for us? No one, not even me, had any doubts about what we were dealing with here. A situation where everyone was desperate, acted on their own accord, and didn't know how to use their lives well was basically the worst. And apparently this line of thinking I'd had would foreshadow the next turn of events. We just saw her. Why is everyone in such a hurry to do the worst things possible? Chiemi, Mochi, and Takumi and I went to search for Hara. Kaori-san showed no signs of calming down, so Yasunaga stayed with her. Kiyo refused to come, arguing that it would be bad if there wasn't enough manpower around the dining hall. And he wasn't wrong about that. It wasn't unlikely for some fur-covered monster or Haru-chan's kidnapper was still around. Now, first thing they want to use, second thing they do it at night. So Rennie survives attacks or accidents. We split up into pairs. I think Haruchan just ran off by herself. She's not dead. There's no way. We were given a hoe and a sickle for self-defense.
気をつけてね、二人とも。
やばいことになったら全力で叫べ。低く大きい声でな。
That seems hard to do if you're really far apart.
了解です。よろしくな。も
キリキリ働くぞ、ハッサン。
The skirt would have made the search harder for him, so he changed into his school uniform. He wasn't cut out for the job either, but he had no other clothes. At least it was better than a one-piece dress. He seemed to enjoy wearing his girl's clothing, so changing into the uniform was probably his way of showing he was serious about this. He kept his easygoing tone of voice, but it felt like there was gravity in his eyes, too. He might have been pretty shaken.
Haru-chan!
Haru-chan!
We walked around Yasumizo, shouting until our throats became dry. We checked every bush, all the patches of tall grass, and behind every tree. We even searched the water around the paddy fields, but didn't feel like we were any closer to finding her.
彼女はどうしたと思う？
わからん。自分のじっちゃんが死んでショックだったのかも。
いや、その前だ。朝から何かおかしかったろ。
I did think she seemed a little suspicious. I don't remember exactly what she did. I think they mentioned like maybe she seemed guilty, like right when we woke up, that she had that kind of expression. And I had the impression that maybe, like it seems unlikely they'd give away the wolf this early, but maybe there's going to be one of them that's really easy to catch and the other one's going to be really hard to catch. But so also, this is just my idea. I wonder if we can take a peek at this. Oh yeah, I guess that's just what it looks like. But I'm thinking, unless there's multiple games in one playthrough, I'm thinking there's a good chance that, like, when we go back in time, like, it's going to change up who the wolves are, and, like, it's just going to be completely different every time. Because otherwise, it just seems like one game, I don't know, it just seems weird. You'd only have one werewolf game, and but yeah, you have time looping and all that. Like, you could play to the end, and then you know the answer. I mean, maybe we can't get that far because we die. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It seems like it would have to change around. Because also, like, is a seer always going to reveal day one? Actually, maybe, unless we stop that? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
そうだっけ？
彼女、ちょっと潔癖。
潔癖？
汚いものとか行為とか、そういうのを嫌う。
あー、というか、
Scaredy cat, huh?
昔話の汚れとか。
なるほど。
Fear based on superstition. That made sense, but why had something gotten worse? Because people are dying? What happened last night?
だから、はるちゃんが狼でも、
君はそうか。
はるちゃんが狼かどうかは別として、もし
慎重だな。
僕自身のことじゃないからね。
Oh, we also know he likes her.
君とまで腹芸をやりたいわけじゃないんだ。はるちゃんについて何か考えがある。
僕の中では、はるちゃんはやっすんと同じか、それ以上に大事なもので、それ以外何にも大事だからとっととさ。
正論だ。
But no matter how hard we searched, we saw no signs of her. She could have been hiding somewhere. Maybe she collapsed. But I was beginning to entertain another idea.
彼女が休みずを出た可能性は？
I asked, knowing everyone would deny the idea.
相当考えに。
霧の休みずは黄泉の国と。
まあ、あと単純。
その心情は、それでもあえて彼女が村を逃げ出したとした場合、
Fear?
彼女にどんな心境
Everyone fell silent. They couldn't even imagine it. It was like their brains had stopped working. She'd actually wandered out into danger. We'd wasted too much time searching for her in the village. I had to hurry, so I didn't hesitate to use some big assumptions that bordered on chicanery.
彼女にとってこの村が、あるいは人が、
どういうこと？
深夜あるいは早朝に、彼女は自分のよく知る人物が狼になって人を平然と殺した。その事実を確信できるような何
Everyone
か。
gasped.
彼女は若いし、不安定。休みずは狭い社会だから、心の拠り所が失われれば、苛烈な性格であるはるちゃんなら、一年発起して脱出を
説得力あるな。
I agree.
しかしならどうする？諦めろ。
That was the thought of someone from Yasumizu.
僕は汚れてもいいからハルちゃんを探しに行く。
That was the thought of someone from Yasumizu who had a few screws loose.
そんなわけで外出に抵抗感のないよそ者である僕も行きます。
だからそれ
大丈夫。ヤバそうだったらすぐ引き返す。それに大人が子供を見捨てる。
ハッサ
反論しようがないよ。
もちろん彼女がまだ休みずにいる。
任せてくれ。
危なかったら絶対逃げてよ。
ン、ハッサン、さっき言ってた話さ。
This is weird though, because I mean, I don't know. It just seems like she could have ran away in any direction. How are we gonna find her? How are we gonna let the other group know if we find her? How are they gonna let us know if they find her? Because we don't have any cell phones or anything like that. It just seems like a very fictional thing that this would work, because it just seems like such a long shot. Like, who the hell knows? Like, looking around the village, at least you're around each other. So if she's there, you can find her. But this just seems like a shot in the dark. You know, like such a small chance that you're actually gonna find her. And also, how are you going to catch up to her, you know? And you don't even know which way she went. It's just... like, she'd just be gone. If she was actually trying to leave.
どれ？
ハルちゃんが何かを見たから誰も信じ、
うん。
多分本当じゃないよね。
I mean, is it you?
さあ僕はあくまで可能性。
例えば僕やヤッスンが牙とか生やしてうろついてるのを見たとか。
Yeah, you're bringing up the possibility.
まあそれも可能性だね。
なんていうか。
Well, I already thought the other guy was a wolf, too. that does play into that theory.
ただの勘かい。
But again, them bringing it up makes it less likely that it's true. When it's this early.
そう、ただの勘だけど、それこの読み意味の宴ってさ、そういう方法で狼を見つけらんないようにできてる気がする。
夜出歩けないから目撃ができない。一箇所に固まって相互監視もできない。おまけに全部霧の中で何がな。だからそういう証拠とかじゃ狼を見つけら
How
れ
could
な
the players
い。
send people to be hanged without the slightest bit of material evidence? Because it's the game. If you ignore the weird guardian powers, it was all quibbles, agitation, sophistry. Sophistry? I know that word. I've seen it in text a lot, but I don't think I've ever heard it out loud. Emotional arguments, connections, popularity. Basically, the power of communication.
よくわからんけど、そんな感じでちゃんとできてるん
Nothing
じゃ
was
ない？
certain. If they were put in a dangerous argument, with their only weapon being their eloquence, there's a feast of doubting, hurting, and eventually killing one another. If there was such malice behind this, then Mochi had a point.
もしや君は探偵タイプなんじゃない？
え？いやー、それはやっすんだな。もしかしたら
Suspicious.
やつはもういろいろ
I'd have to talk to him
かもしれ
then.
ないぞ。
We arrived at the mountain pass separating Yasumizo from the rest of the world, and I think we will end this episode here. So, till next time.